Hello, everybody. Welcome to the COA podcast. We are thrilled to be here today with Father Gabriel again. Father?
Paul, how are you?
Good. I miss you, Father. How are you doing?
Me too. I'm good.
Welcome. Welcome to your own home.
Thank you.
And we're here with Ridvan, also known as AP, who is a familiar face to many of you and has a style that I'm sure most of you have seen. But today you're going to get to see a different side of Ridvan because we're going to go down a journey that was enlightening. And the poor guy, I think I talked his ear off and made him answer like 4 million questions before we started today. I'm really sorry, Ridvan, before we begin.
Wait, we weren't recording?
No, we weren't. This whole time we weren't. That's just me being annoying. I apologize. We're so blessed to have him here face to face, and we hope he will enlighten you as he has enlightened us. And we hope he's not bored of us because we've probably asked him a million times, a million questions. And now we're going to start with 1,000,001. Welcome, Ridvan.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's such a great joy to be here. I'm really happy and very thankful that you opened your home and the space that you have here. And I have enjoyed every bit of it. So it's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure. It's our blessing. True. So right off the bat, let's give people a little bit of a background about your early life. Let's take us from the beginning of the journey. How about that? Early childhood, upbringing, country, all that good stuff so that we can start painting the picture.
Yeah, so a long time ago in 1991, I know I'm very young, right? So I was born in Germany into a family of very religious Turkish Muslim immigrants. I lived in Germany for about 15 to 16 years, after which my family wanted to move to Turkey and I had to move with them. It wasn't up to me to stay or anything. So moved to Turkey and lived there for 10 years and afterwards came here to America. But so being raised in Germany in a very, very religious Sunni Muslim Turkish family, there was always a conflict. You know, I'm raised in a Christian or Christian-ish country and raised with a Muslim upbringing by very religious Muslim parents, and there has always been a conflict there. I have always appreciated much of the Christian and German culture, but I was also supposed to be a Muslim among all that. And that's where everything began. For the longest time growing up, I was a Muslim. I did respect my religion and my belief in Islam and all that, but I wasn't necessarily very devout to Islam until later on in life, when I was in Turkey and I kind of had this identity crisis in Turkey going on, and at that same time there was also a very tragic incident in my life where my aunt, who was very close to me, died or was murdered by her husband that she married and was trying to divorce, was very abusive, and I was very close to her, and I was kind of going as I was a late teenager at that time, and with her together, I was kind of exploring the meaning of life and things like that. When she was tragically killed, it kind of shocked me and sent me down a path of trying to figure out what in the world the purpose of everything is, and what the truth is and all that. And I talked with her about religion a lot and about maybe we should become more devout, maybe we should become proper Muslims and all that. I thought about all those things when she died, and then at that point I decided to really dedicate myself to my Islamic faith and became very devoutly religious and studied the Quran and practiced Islam very heavily and lived like that for quite a few years until I ended up leaving Islam behind and going toward atheism. But I'm just going down the whole path here. I don't know if you want to...
Let's just going. Okay. We want it all. Go for it.
Yeah, then... So I left Islam at some point and at first became a little bit agnostic, atheistic, came to the conclusion that Islam can't be true, that it is not true, that it all is false and meaningless and all that. But at that time, it took a long time to come to that conclusion. But when I was at that conclusion, and I decided that I no longer believe that Islam is true, it was also it was also a very, very bad state to be in, because until that point, as said, I was raised with very Islamic beliefs and ideas, and my entire life I kind of even when I wasn't very devout, but also later on when I was very devout, the idea was generally that I'm alive and that I'm living through all of this because of Islam, because of Allah, and because of that ultimate goal. So when that was taken away, when I was convinced that it is no longer true, I was left completely empty and dark inside. I questioned for a while if there is a God or not, and I eventually concluded that I do not believe that there is a God. So after a year or so, I became totally atheistic, rejecting all kinds of religious beliefs. But later on, still had sympathy for religiosity and sympathy and understanding for religion, and especially for Christianity, but big resentment toward Islam at that time.
If I can just stop you for a second, because we've had guests before on podcasts who went down, through the journey of atheism and then came back to Christ. But when you are deeply rooted in a faith, even if it's not a Christian faith, and you believe something so big as, the existence of God and Him rooted in your life, how do you get pushed to such a quick notion of there is no God? Like, what is it that pushes you to go from not just, faith, but devout faith to no existence of God?
There is a very big thing, especially in our time, which is that there is a huge glorification of trying to explain everything and trying to have a perfect, completely solid, 100% certain explanation to everything there is. This is especially a popular mindset in the West, and I was also very much under the influence of that. In the West, it is very much normal that this whole idea of just going completely scientific, logic and reason alone and so on is very much glorified. And of course, there is really good stuff about that. There's something really good about it. It leads people to be curious and to understand and to find out more. But it also has great downsides. It also has great dangers attached to it. I did ask questions, and I'm very thankful for those questions that came to my mind when I was a Muslim and when I was really religious. I did not, for a lot of people, because of my initial outbursts and my severe rejection of the faith, it might seem that it was just me rebelling. But when I was religious, when I was in the faith, I was I loved it. I loved practicing it. I loved believing in it. I wanted it to be true. And I prayed when I was religious. There were nights when I would pray and cry and ask Allah never to take this away and to take my life before taking this away from me. And I appreciated it so much, and I loved it. I really did love it. But I also had so many questions about the things that the Quran, for example, says and teaches, and all that. And studying those, I had these big questions on my mind, because I don't want to get very specific about them now. But you get an understanding of what the world looks like, for example, and then you read that book, which is said to have all the perfect answers to everything, and the realities in the world contradict very much with what that book says. And then those questions get amplified, and I try to suppress those questions, because I think I have to have faith in this. This is the truth, and I can't get outside of this. So I try to suppress them until at some point I allowed myself to just go down that path and to just allow myself to think and to question, because the idea was, if it is the Creator who created me and who also created my mind, why would He be upset with me asking questions? So I went down that path, but then so I left that one faith. But maybe it was a good thing to do that. But that then also opens the door to every single thing, to questioning every single thing there is, and to having an overconfidence in your own mind over humility, over just accepting that other people might be more wise than you are. And when I left the faith, I did become very much obsessed and convinced with the idea that I myself, I can just figure everything out. I can figure out if this is true or not. So if I commit myself to something, it has to come only once I know for 100% that it is true. So with that in mind, it was no longer possible for me to accept any idea of God or of religion unless I can 100% demonstrate that it is true, And this also kind of troubled me for 10 years when I was in hardcore atheism. In fact, when I later on, and I'm sure we'll get to that, but when I later on went to church and I really liked it and I really loved it and loved attending, this was one of the first things that I brought up to my priest. I said, look, there is so much goodness to it and I want to make a step, but there is something holding me back. I have this obsession with wanting to know with certainty that it is true before committing myself to it. And my friend David Wood first talked to me about that, and he said, he basically, I'm going to dumb it down what he actually said to me because it was very, very deep and very thoughtful, but he basically said that it's a very stupid idea to live like that. Because if you're in the middle of, if you're somewhere, in a field and it is all foggy and you can't see anything, it would be a very stupid idea to just keep standing there until you can know for certain what your next step is going to be. You have to move at some point, even if you don't see where you are going. You can't just stand there forever. So,
but you've now forwarded the movie to 3/4 of the way through. So I have to take you back for a second, okay? Because now you're going to ruin the movie.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. You can't say sorry. We've been talking your ear off all day. You've had to answer, so you probably don't even know where you are in the story right now. But my biggest question is, forget that it's Islam, it could be any religion. You go from a framework where there's a God, and now you are God, essentially, because you're saying you can figure everything out. Is that not a very lonely, scary place to be?
It is. The way you put it is actually very much accurate. I didn't want to say it like that, but as I entered it, as I entered the phase of just quitting to worship my own mind and myself, I also went to my priest and said to him, I didn't realize it, but so far for 10 years I was just worshiping knowledge, and I was worshiping intelligence, and I was basically worshiping myself and worshiping my own mind. That's what I was trusting the most. And it was just very funny because whenever people asked me about why I don't believe in God at that time, I would tell people, well, there are so many questions out there. We don't even know what's at the bottom of the oceans. We don't know what's out there in outer space. We don't know the answer to this. We don't know the answer to that. So how can we say that there is a God when we don't know anything? We can trust ourselves. But this entire time, I was also trusting my own knowledge and my own conclusion that there is no God. So and with the conclusion that there is no God, I was also relying completely on myself in terms of my life choices, what's right and what's wrong, and so on. And I also admitted this to myself because, when you are religious, you follow, of course, a specific set of morals. You follow what you are taught and what you know is good and is bad. When you don't have religion, you can make up all kinds of things. You can say, oh yeah, we are alive and we want to strive for, I don't know, for comfort, for whatever is in the best interest of everyone, whatever makes everyone happy, whatever makes everyone feel well-being and so on. But all of that is just completely made up. It's just you create all of that and then pursue that because you trust yourself to be the ultimate guide in the world. You create your own meaning and you follow whatever you command to do. So you are basically.
So I have a question before Paul intervenes. So, I mean, I'm sure that you know that you have failed or gotten wrong answers here and there, right? So you know that you're not perfect. Yet, you think that you will figure it out on your own, that you are the source of that truth. I mean, how does that happen? How does both of those thoughts join together? Are you blinded by pride? Are you how does it work?
That's a very good question. I thinking back about it, I was very prideful, and I didn't want to admit this to myself because I wanted to act like, oh, I'm totally humble and I acknowledge that we are all ignorant and we don't know anything and so on. But I was also very prone to immediately reject and throw out whatever other people bring to me as truth, and would generally in my mind, go toward the idea, oh, these people just don't know any better. They're just indoctrinated. I know that I know that they're wrong. I know that this is false. I have the answers to, and if I don't have the answers to everything, then I'll just open a book, or I'll just, look at the science and the evidence, and then I'll come to the conclusion, and I will decide whatever is right and whatever is wrong. But you see where this is coming from. This entire mindset is a very arrogant one. It is a very it presumes that the ultimate authority in the world is you, is your own mind. It presumes that all the people out there who have lived entire lives pursuing and explaining and experiencing things are all dumb, and you are the ultimate intelligence out there. That's basically what it is.
Can we play Ask Your Atheist Friend a Question for a second? Are you able to put that hat back on for a second? Because I feel like if there are people who are atheists, I'm sure there are, and they're watching this, I've always wanted the answer from an atheist person. So can you kind of rewind? You're not Christian yet?
Yes, I'm an atheist.
You're an atheist, right?
Only for the game. Yeah.
Only for the game.
Yeah.
So it's Ask Your Atheist Friend. Okay.
Yes.
My friend, how are you today? You good?
Thanks, science.
Yeah, thanks, science. Very good. I like it. You switched like that. I like it. Thanks, science. Okay. No God. That's what you're telling me.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, that's what you're saying, right? And the world exists right now. We know what it does. And you're saying there's no such thing as a creator, which means we have to go back science and Big Bang and all that good stuff. But eventually you need to get to a starting point where some matter existed. Who put the matter there? How did it get there?
Well, we don't know the answer to that question. So, it could be anything. It could be that it was just, it just eternally existed, or it was just creating itself.
So why
something was popping out of other things?
Fell into my trap. I love it. So if it eternally existed, how is that easier to believe in a rock eternally existed, but not a supreme being who can create the whole universe?
Well, that's a good question. I just don't know the answer to that, and we'll just have to figure it out somehow,
Fantastic. Okay, so that's the answer, right? Is that
Pretty much.
just no? But did that as an atheist, because you're atheist, you said for 10 years.
Yeah.
Did that question not bother you?
It did. It did bother me every single time. And whenever it came up, so there are certain things such as what was there before everything. We acknowledge, for example, the Big Bang. We acknowledge different theories, different hypotheses besides the Big Bang and all that. But nothing is really satisfactory. Everything always leads to, okay, but what exactly came before that? How exactly did it pop into existence? Why would it pop into existence? Why would it expand? These things, first off, they leave you with no actual answer. What they leave you with is, we do not know. We will just have to somehow find out.
But that's what I find fascinating, is that we do not know. Forget the fact that we don't know. Mm-hmm. But like, as an atheist, you say you don't know. But that's an admission of faith in itself.
Kind of.
Did it never hit you that, like, I have to have faith? Like, it takes a leap of faith to say material eternally existed and I don't know how. Like, why is that so less offensive than the leap of faith of the supreme being whose fingerprint is on the whole world?
So I have to give the atheists who think that way some credit here, which is so their response and their ultimate conclusion will eventually be that okay, yeah, we can't answer this question, and maybe we can answer the question somehow, but we just can't really explain it. But we just have to accept that we don't know the answers to everything, and it might be something that we do not know. Maybe we will figure it out in the future, but it also cannot be the creator, because if you say that it's the creator, then you are making a claim without being able to completely prove it, and we are wanting to wait for proof. So that's the difference. They will say you have to put some faith into that. But then again, you could say, why would you, in that state, why would you then come to the conclusion, okay, we just don't know, and we choose not to know? That is kind of a weird state to be in, and it also leaves you no
ever. Did you ever go to sleep like comfortable?
No. The thing is, I said this before, but for many, many years, especially after I became kind of public and started commenting on things and people asked me about my beliefs, especially when Christians asked me, when Muslims asked me, I mean, I have to say, I had interactions with Muslims, some people who were very antagonizing and very hostile toward me, and they, would taunt me with my life being meaningless and hopeless and all that, and I would, in response, claim that I'm actually completely happy and everything is completely fine and all that. It wasn't like that. I was lying the entire time. I was a liar. I was lying to myself whenever I said that I'm happy, whenever I said that I'm okay with the fact that there is no ultimate meaning, that there is no ultimate creator, that there is no ultimate authority, and that everything is just left open, that everything is left up to ignorance and to just creating your own meaning or finding meaning in meaninglessness. All of this was just me coping with the fact that everything is just so depressing.
So did you believe yourself, or you were actually lying? Like, did you believe yourself?
I wanted to believe myself.
Okay.
So I was telling myself that I'm happy, and I was telling others that I'm happy, but the entire time I knew that I wasn't happy, but I was trying to ignore the voice that tells me, actually you're not happy. And I was trying to suppress it and trying to claim that I am happy, but the entire time I wasn't happy. And this is a very big issue. I found purpose and meaning, ironically, in the idea that there is no ultimate meaning and that you can create your own meaning and can figure things out, and people just want to be happy, and there is a short lifetime, and all I need to do during this lifetime is to find something that makes me happy and to be well and all that. But all of that is just arbitrary. And the fact that you try to find meaning and try to be happy in a completely meaningless world is ultimately hopeless and depressing, because you can say, okay, I will live for, 70, 80 years, maybe shorter, maybe longer. And during that time, I will do my best to be a good person, to be happy, to, do things that I love, to be good to others and all that. Okay, but why?
I mean, exactly.
What does it matter? In 500 years, what does it matter? In 1,000 years, what does it matter? In 2,000 years, what doesn't matter at all? All of it is completely meaningless. If there is no meaning, if there is no ultimate creator, no ultimate purpose, all of it is completely meaningless. You can say whatever you want. You can say, okay, we are utilitarian. We want to do whatever is best in the best interest of everybody. Okay, why? Why do I have to participate in that? You can just come to the conclusion that all of it is completely meaningless. Even if you were to conclude that collectively we should be doing the good thing because that seems to result in the good thing, why? It doesn't matter in the end. Everything will go into non-existence and be rotted out, and not even it will just cease existing, and all of it will be completely meaningless. Any choice that you made today will be completely meaningless. And this is just such a bizarre and almost disgusting thing to be in, instead of stopping for a moment and thinking, maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe all these other people who are living meaningful lives actually know something that I don't. Maybe I just need to be quiet for once and listen.
Did you believe like in evolution, like from the perspective that there's like no God, let's say, guiding that evolution? Is that something you believed in?
I was never really sure about evolution, but I thought to myself, so I thought that the evolution of species seems to be like a reasonable thing, but most of it was just accepting whatever the science tells you and whatever the science teaches. Most people follow it and believe in it and don't really know much about it. It's just the way it is.
Because I was always curious to understand how is it that someone could believe in this random process with no divine hand whatsoever, yet trust their own brain power to come to accurate conclusions. So you come from randomness, yet you were trying to put order, from that randomness. I don't know if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was always a question mark for me.
It's also the same thing with morality, by the way. Like today, for example, with liberal ethics and liberal morals, people will very, very confidently tell people what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do, but they're relying completely, if they're taking, if they don't have faith in God, but rather in human progress and the modern human mind, they're basically just trusting arbitrary rules that they themselves made up, despite the fact that they know that, the evolutionary process is just a bunch of dumb things becoming slowly and slowly and slowly complex.
So let me take you back to the movie now that you were fast forwarding.
Yes.
For. You're grown up as a Muslim, you loved Islam, you prayed to Allah to not take this away from you, and you loved it, and you wanted to love it, and then you had questions. Slowly those questions became doubts, and then those doubts became conviction that I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not because I'm done with this, I'm going to another religion. You're just done with God, period.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're atheist for 10 years, faking being happy.
Yeah.
Answering your own questions without answering them.
Yeah.
Where did Jesus come into the picture? Like, where did you encounter Christ for the first time?
Well, the very good thing, and it's a great blessing, and I count myself very lucky. The very good thing is that during this process, so I've always had some sympathy and always some, interest in Christianity, and but when I started going online and speaking about things, I befriended certain people quickly, Christian people. One of my good friends nowadays is David Wood, who was a Christian himself, who came from a very, very complicated, very messed up background, but is today a Christian. And now I don't want to flatter him too much. I hope he doesn't watch this, but
I hope he does.
But so when I first got to know him, I'd fast forward when I befriended him, and when I started spending time with him and around him, he quickly became a person that I could trust completely and fully with absolutely anything. He's one of two maybe people besides my wife that I can trust fully with my life and with everything that I have. And it is a very, very, very interesting thing because he is a diagnosed psychopath. He has an antisocial personality disorder.
He's not insulting you, David. He's just telling the story.
He loves you. He loves
He's
you.
only said good things about you all day, I promise. I don't know why he's calling you a psychopath now, but... sorry, I didn't mean to...
So for clarification, he has...
Yes, please clarify.
He has a medical condition called antisocial personality
Okay, so
disorder.
is he okay with you saying this on it?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry, David. Go ahead. Yeah.
So he was diagnosed with it, and he actually doesn't feel some basic emotions that everyone feels, such as fear, empathy, compassion, fuzzy love feelings and all that, or sadness. When he sees like people hurting or anything, he doesn't feel anything at all about that. So he doesn't have any regrets, remorses, and things like that. Which is why he also told his own story, so don't blame me now. But
I can't just get over the idea of fear. I kind of want to ride a roller coaster with David now and see how that goes. But yeah, go ahead.
But so at some point he became delusional early on in his life as an atheist, and became violent, and actually went to prison for assaulting his own father. And in prison, he was then diagnosed with the condition, and then he found out that he has a problem. Until then, he thought, I am better than all other humans because they have these pathetic feelings and I don't, and I'm strong, and I'm just much better, and so on. And that person, so when I first met him, I thought to myself, I was a little bit scared. I wasn't scared, but I was kind of curious how it's going to be because he has an antisocial personality disorder. But then you learn about his story and about his devotion to Christ and his sincere devotion to Christ. I'm careful with using the word love because whenever I say love, he says, "Yeah, I love, but not the way you think love, because I don't feel fuzzy feelings." But his passion, his love, and his devotion to Christ, it turned him into a completely different person. And he's selfless. He helps other people whenever he can. He does whatever he does for others, and so on. And seeing how such a terrible person was transformed by Christ into such a wonderful person, has always been a very strong, testimony, a very strong witness to me. So I've always, even at the peak of my atheism, I thought, wow, it's really amazing how that transforms somebody. And I talk to him about this very often, and he is just sincerely of the belief that Christ is much, much better than any human could ever be, which is also what initially brought him toward Christianity, and he pursued it. And so him and people like him, along the way, Christians just being such wonderful and kind people, that has been with me. But there was also something else. And this also ties into to eventually my journey to the church. I talked about this earlier, but there is a saint, Saint Martin, Saint Martin of Tours. He's so I grew up in Germany, and in Germany I was the child of a Muslim family. So I was raised a Muslim, but I also go to school in Germany, and in Germany school was always like the separation between church and state isn't quite as radical in Germany as it is in America, for example. So in school we would sing Christian songs, for example, as little kids, and there was a song that was about Saint Martin. And it was just a beautiful song. It goes, Saint Martin, Saint Martin. And
Voice of an angel.
it told the story of a saint, and I didn't know anything about it except that it's just a song about this beautiful man. And but the things that I did know from the story is that so one night, this Saint Martin, he's riding out on a snowy, cold winter night, and he encounters a poor man who doesn't have clothes to wear and who is begging for help, and he's shivering to death. So Saint Martin, who is a Roman soldier and has this huge red cloak that Roman soldiers would use as a bed and so on, he sees that man. And Saint Martin himself is at that point a catechumen. He sees that man and he stops and he takes his sword and cuts his cloak in half and gives the half of it to that man, who is very thankful and finds great comfort, because those things were very thick, And later on, as he goes to his own place of resting, he sees Christ coming to him in a vision, wearing that cloak. And then that homeless man comes in that same vision and says to Jesus, "This is Martin, who helped me when I was in need." And this then ties into the verse, what you do to the least of these,
You have done to me.
you have done to me. So that was always something that stuck with me, and I didn't understand this for most of my life, but it was always with me, Even when I didn't think about it, it was always with me. And throughout the years, even as an atheist, I kept thinking back about that song and singing it in my head sometimes. And it was only when I found my way to the church and the topic of saints came up, I thought back about that saint, and I realized how my entire life, even though I didn't appreciate or I didn't really understand it, the story of that very compassionate man who helped those in need and who saw Christ come and approve of it, was always with me, even when I did not know it. And today I think about it and I see how it was always there, and I appreciate it. So I asked my priest if I can have him as my patron saint, and he said yes. So,
But St. Martin's been with you the whole time.
Yeah. So things like these, Yeah.
So on the other side of that, not to fast forward the story again, but we're there anyways. Did you feel ostracized from your previous life, from family, from friends, from...
Yeah, that's a very dark chapter. But so when you leave the faith, it's of course a uniquely problematic thing in that religion. And leaving the faith is one thing. Leaving the faith alone already caused lots of relatives and others to completely cut ties with me and condemn me, and also tell each other to cut ties with me and so on. And then my own parents eventually found out, and they also found out that I speak about it online, which was completely unacceptable to them. So my father disowned me at some point, and he only sent me a message and said, "We can't consider you our son anymore," and so on. Lots of other people in my life cut ties and all that. It was very difficult for a while personally, but I've also met others who have gone in that same path, gone through significantly worse things. So I consider myself a little bit lucky, on the lucky side of things.
So, for those in the same shoes today, when it's difficult, when you're in an area where there's no freedom of speech, when you're trying to, come to Christ from whatever religion or from whatever background, what advice, what guidance do you have for them?
People ask me that question very often, especially people from countries where you have to hide your identity. And every single time it's very difficult for me to answer the question, because it really depends on where you are, it depends on who you are, it depends on whether you're male or female especially. It depends on what kind of people your parents are, what kind of community you are in. But I would say look for a way out to a different place, to a better place to live, and pray and get in touch with a lot of people online who nowadays have become very, very outspoken, who might offer a hand to help you, or visit a church if you have one somewhere. Confide in them. That's all I can say.
So now you've, I don't know if you answered the question. Okay, we went to St. Martin. We went to St. Martin. Okay, not the island, but we went to the story of St. Martin.
Maybe we should go there.
We should go there. Yeah. But what's your first now encounter other than St. Martin with Christ and the church?
So we went a little bit fast forward, but the thing is, there is a very interesting aspect which my first break from atheism wasn't actually with Christianity. It was when I went to Israel, and so I visited Israel, went on my own with David. We fundraised and had everything organized. We didn't want to go with anyone telling us what to do, so we just did our own thing there. But going there, as I went there, I was still a hardcore atheist at that point.
A Christian, an atheist who used to be a Muslim, going into the Holy Land of the three.
The funny thing is,
three monotheistic religions.
Yeah.
Please explain how that went. That's almost like a joke.
So I was always very interested in the affairs of Israel, and we wanted to go there and do things and figure things out and record things and talk about things and get all the facts and all that. So, we wanted to do that, and I felt bad later on because when I was there, I was an atheist, and then later after I became a Christian, I thought to myself, I actually went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And I had no idea what it meant when I was there.
No appreciation. No, you found nothing.
Yeah.
You just didn't.
And man,
could you tell them about the tattoo? Can you please tell them about the tattoo? Or should I not have brought that up? Show the tattoo.
So here's the tattoo.
He got this as an atheist, which is hysterical in itself. But yes.
So here's the thing. In Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem, there is a famous tattoo, a Coptic tattoo.
Our people store. Shout out to our people.
We made it.
Yeah. There's a very famous Coptic tattoo place that has been around for over 500 years or so. Mm-hmm. So, and I was always very interested in Coptic culture and Coptic art and all that. We rented a place, and it turned out that that the family that owned that place also was a Coptic family that also owned the tattoo shop. So David and I, we wanted to go to that tattoo shop and see what they have. And we started talking to the person who worked there. And he was very kind, very interesting, had wonderful conversations with him. And I thought, hey, I want to get a tattoo here. And David is like, are you sure? Yes, I want to get a tattoo. What do you want to get? I want to get a cross. So
but you're still atheist.
Yes.
This made no sense. Okay.
But and the thing is, in the past, I always liked the Coptic cross and the shape of it, and I wanted to get one of those. But then when I went there and I opened their catalog, which is like full of like centuries old designs, I thought all of these are very, very interesting and very beautiful. I want to get one of these. And I turned to David and said, hey, do you want to get one too? And he said, yeah, pick one and I'll get it too. Well, really? Yeah. Okay. So we looked through it and I come across this tattoo and it's like, the Star of Bethlehem, the 3 crowns, the Jerusalem cross, and the wreath here around it. And I asked what the meaning of this is. And of course, some of it is kind of self-explanatory. Some of it is Christian symbolism. Some of it is a little bit ambiguous. It's very historical and very old. But I thought, I really like this. And I'm like, and I turned to David and said, hey, I'm going to get this. He's like, okay, I'm going to get it too. Okay.
So matching tattoos.
So we just spontaneously sat down and first I got it and then he got it as well on the same spot. So we both have now the same tattoo on the same arm at the same spot. And it's kind of funny because I got it as an atheist, but there's a cross on it, So
It gets even funnier because your next step after atheism wasn't Christianity.
It wasn't because I was there mostly not because I was interested in Christianity. I was there because I was interested in, first off, in Israel, but also in Judaism. And I got the tattoo of the Jerusalem cross, but then the next day we go to the Western Wall, and I feel overwhelmed with something beautiful at the Western Wall, and I go there to the Western Wall, surrounded by Jewish people, and the funny thing is, so first I cover my head with a kippah and go to the wall, and as I'm standing there, I'm appreciating how amazing this place is, but I also feel like just going there and saying a prayer, but I don't really know what to say, so. So I'm just standing there and appreciating it. And at that point, I turned around to David and said, "This is incredible. I feel something very, very amazing." And he just started recording that on camera and later published that for some reason. But at that point, I had interactions with religious Jewish people. We left the Western Wall, and then these two older Jewish men came up to us. They thought we were just regular secular Jews or something, and they are religious Jews. And with Judaism, it's a little bit different. They have this whole idea that Jews have a collective duty to fulfill all the commandments, and if some Jews don't fulfill the commandments, then it is a collective negative. So they have to encourage each other. So those very religious, ultra-Orthodox Jews, they came up to us and wanted to give us leaflets to tell us to, follow the commandments. And I said, I'm not Jewish. And they're like, oh, where are you from? So we talked a little bit about things. We talked a little bit about the war that is ongoing and all that. And those people were very wonderful to me. And I said to one of them, we're just here to look at things and to tell the story and, to see everything from here. And one of those men started just tearing up for no reason and said, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you. May he bless you and all that. And I don't know, I was very impacted by that. And now this is going to go into very dangerous territory here, but with all my interactions over there with the people, with Jewish people, with religious Jewish people, I on the way back, I said to David, I don't understand this, So I was raised with extreme hatred against Jews and extreme conspiracy theories, and I overcame those at some point and started studying and understanding them more. But I still had some prejudices in my head that were, I guess, left over, although I didn't realize it. But when I went there, I was genuinely overwhelmed with how good people were and how happy and satisfied and helpful and kind the people in general were. And I thought to myself, none of this makes sense, David. I don't understand how the people here get so much hate and how there is such a mess going on here when there is such goodness here and when there is such kindness in these people. Like, I don't know, just a basic interaction. I went into a taxi and had a conversation with a woman who is a driver there. And she asked me where I'm from, and I said, from America. Why are you here? I said, I'm just here to, report things and all that. And she thanked me. I didn't tell her anything. I didn't tell her on whose side I was or what I was doing. She'd thanked me just for coming there instead of just,
We're always on the side of Christ at the end, right?
Yeah. So, I know, I took all those things very, very well. And I thought, I don't know, maybe there is something worse out there that is very keen on just keeping the hate and the bloodshed and the fighting and the death ongoing, because there is such goodness taking place here, and I don't understand any of it. And at that point, I became very interested in Judaism, actually.
How long did that last? Like, once you came back to the States, did it stick around, that thought?
Yeah, I was very confused at first by what I saw, and I also saw very bad things. No, I was there, and I I went to places and also saw footage of horrible things that terrorists did and things like that. And despite being raised with some of the mindsets that they have, I really I couldn't believe what kind of atrocities human beings can do to each other
Yeah.
in the name of whatever it is.
Mm.
So it really messed me up for a while, but I also that's where my whole atheism started basically breaking down, and I started exploring Judaism.
But that's, forgive me, Ridvan, that's usually where people's atheism begins, is they see atrocities and they're like, how can there be a God in a world with atrocities? Why would he allow this? It's weird. It's strange that that pushed you towards God. Can you explain that more?
Well,
Or maybe put on your atheist hat again, kind of.
I never really had that thought, even when I was an atheist. I never thought to myself, if there is a God, how would he allow evil to happen? The question never really made sense to me.
Mm.
There really is no sense to that question. It's like, well,
It's not God's fault that we're horrible. you know?
why is that? And there is no logic included there. There is no logical analysis, no logical conclusion in that question alone. It is simply a purely emotional question, and often justifiably emotional question. Humans are emotional beings. When they see suffering, they think, "Oh, why would this happen? Why would God allow this?" and so on. But that question often arises from a lack of understanding, I would say. And if you believe, for example, that humans are created with goodness, but they are in a fallen world, a flawed world, and and with their will they take the goodness away and engage in the lack of goodness, in darkness and all that. And there are powers, there are evil things that want to feed that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't know why that would imply that there probably is no God. On the contrary, I thought with such goodness on one side and such atrocities and evil on the other side, there seems to be a very big struggle between something profoundly good and something profoundly evil. And I was questioning that. So I was exploring Judaism, and it was funny because at that time I was really into becoming Jewish, and I was like adopting Jewish practices and analyzing them. And at that point, I was actually thinking, I don't want to be distracted by Christianity because I want to focus on Judaism. And my wife at the same time became kind of interested in Christianity again after spending lots of time in atheism. And there was actually a time where at home I was trying to the best of my abilities, just to try and see
what testing it out, taking it.
Yeah, and I was like getting like Jewish prayer books and doing Jewish practices. And at the same time, my wife is over there. She just she started suddenly believing in Christ, and she's like in front of icons praying, and I'm over there in the other room with my Jewish prayers. It was
I find fascinating when you're telling us part of this story before. I found fascinating that both David Wood, and your wife, the two people that you trust with your life, that love you, said nothing at the time. Like, no one was pushing you. They all were just letting you take your journey. It's so like wise. I find that like odd.
It's also it shows one thing about me, which is that I've always been quite stubborn and headstrong on doing whatever I think is right instead of.
Yeah, but it's not like they were fighting you about it. That's so crazy.
Yeah, and David had this tendency to just he's like, yeah, okay, I see where this is going. Just fine, let it be. And my wife was kind of trying not to be combative about it and trying to respect what I do, while also wishing that I would just, find the truth and all that. And it was there was one point where I was I still haven't sent my apology to them, but I was actually invited by a religious Jewish community to come over and to experience the Sabbath with them, to explore things better. But at that point, I was also I had tried the whole Jewish thing, and I had a lot of sympathy for them, and I still have a lot of respect for for them and their faith and all that. And I'm really, really grateful and happy that I got to interact with them and experience everything for myself, because it gave me a much better understanding of things. But the good thing is, the interesting thing is, it also opened something very nice up, because as I studied the Jewish history and Jewish practices and Orthodox Jewish synagogues and Orthodox worship and all that, Orthodox Jewish worship, later on, when I went to church, I saw similarities. And I saw how, wait a minute, the processions here, the priest going and going on the altar, the bells, this and that, everything sounds very familiar to what I just read in what I read about Judaism and Jewish practice and about synagogue. This looks like Second Temple, and I wasn't really aware of that connection before. But then I start understanding how Christianity, how apostolic traditional Christianity, basically is very much the continuation of biblical Jewish practices as they were.
It's the reality of the shadows.
Yeah. And the thing is also, no disrespect to my Jewish friends here, but I tried also, but there was something lacking, and I felt like the entire time as I was putting on a Jewish thing and doing that, I felt like I was just trying to fit in, and there was nothing. There was no response, actually. It was only when the first thing that I did was to pick up a rosary, because I was very interested in Catholicism. I was exploring something different. I wasn't really getting something from Judaism. I started figuring out Christianity, and I really liked Catholicism. And I tried with praying the rosary and doing things like that. And it was, for the first time, it actually felt like I was doing something real. And for the first time, I felt like I was actually, with very simple prayers and very simple devotion, with a simple attempt. And I also spent time, for the first time, genuinely praying and saying, God, if this is real, help me, open my heart, lead me. And I think it opened, this is kind of, I heard this before a lot of times, and I didn't put any faith in it. But then I did it, and I did it with sincerity. And it opened up a door.
On the spot?
Kind of. It felt like I had peace after 10 years of agony, of suffering, of darkness with the recent atrocities and things that I saw. Suddenly there is peace, and
We think God is so far, yet He's so close.
yeah. The funny thing is, around that time, I was still trying to resist. My wife was going to church at that time. I want to add this part about my wife. So she was raised Christian, but then became an atheist, and that's how we met, and we got married. Then, so around the time that I'm exploring Judaism, she came back to the faith and started going to exploring Orthodox churches. And one day she prayed and asked to be led to a church where she can find goodness and find, truth and find peace and all that, where she can make a beginning. And on the next day at her work, a couple came and randomly started talking to her about orthodoxy, and said, "We're going to this church over here." And she's like, "Oh, really? Okay." And then she first didn't think anything about this. Then later on, she was like, "Wait a minute, I just prayed about this." And so she went to that church and got in touch with the priest, and she was very, very warmly received there. After she went there, she repeatedly asked me in a very nice way, without pushing, on Sundays, "Would you like to come to church with us?" And so I was like, "Not really, thank you." Yeah. At some point, I started getting a little bit annoyed with it. I was like, "Just, I will tell you if I want." Then at some point, she did ask me again, and I thought to myself, "This is very funny."
Does she know before you say it?
I think so. It's very funny because I thought I was being smart, I was trying to trick my wife, and I was trying to trick God, maybe, I don't know, but then I got tricked, that I got played. But
You can't outsmart God. You're in.
she asked me if I wanted to go to church again, and I thought to myself, I'll just say yes, let's just get it over with. And then
Is this after you had started praying with the rosary, or?
yeah, but I still wasn't I wasn't leaning especially toward Orthodox Christianity.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I thought if I want to explore something, I'll probably go to a Catholic church, at some point, maybe, I don't know. But she invited me, and I thought to myself, let's just get it over with. Let me just say yes, then I don't have to go again, and then she'll be happy because she will know that I tried it. So I went with her. But then I really liked it. So I was trying to trick, but then I got tricked, And then I really liked it. I really did like it. And
So let's dwell on that a bit. So what did you like? And also maybe you can bring about, we just visited our own parish here before coming, and you seem to take your moments of silence and soak things in and absorb what you've seen around. And what is it that how did you feel, first of all, earlier, if you don't mind sharing, if you want to share, and what is it that makes you feel that way?
So when I first went to church for the first time, it was the first time that I actually attended a service in a church ever. And I didn't really know much about Orthodoxy. I knew a little bit, somewhat stuff about, Catholicism and Protestant practices. I didn't know much about Orthodoxy. But at first I saw how, as mentioned before, how familiar things were with what I know from the Bible and from Jewish worship and all that. So there was authenticity. There was tradition. There was sincerity. There was such a warmth. The first time that I went to church, I was kind of confused and overwhelmed a little bit. And in fact, the next weekend I didn't go, not because I didn't like it, but rather because I was very confused by it. And it was so much to take in. Then the week after that, I told my wife, I want to go with you. She didn't even ask me. I said, I want to go with you this time. And I went there and actually paid attention and willingly participated and engaged. And it brought me joy. The thing is, when I went to church, or when I thought in the past about, going to church or engaging in some religious practice, I was expecting to be completely overwhelmed with emotions and, almost be drunk or something like that. But then it wasn't like that. It was quite simple and quite simple within. I was also very confused by it, but I just have felt peace. And I felt welcomed, and I felt like this is the place to be.
Yeah.
This is the place to be, and I don't know, the peace of it all, the love, the chants, the tradition, the incense. I love the incense, the iconography, the testimony, the witness of all those people who believed, all those people who are saints. Seeing Christ and Him directly presented to us as He was, as He is. There is just something very, very, very powerful about it. When you took me to your parish, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, really.
No, it's a pleasure.
I was, it was wonderful. It is wonderful. It is a wonderful place to be. And the thing is, for many years, I wanted to find peace because I was just full of turmoil and full of emptiness and darkness. I wanted to find peace. And when I go into a place like this, I find peace. But what I also find is humility. And I find a place where I can put myself aside and empty myself and just look at something that is much greater than me. And because I was torturing myself, relying on myself and worshiping myself, it wasn't giving me any peace. It was only giving me more suffering. And now I empty myself and I go there and I see the witness and I see the saints and I see the tradition and I see the dedication of the people to God, the people to Christ, the people to the clergy, the dedication of the priest to the people, and the love, the mutual love, the tradition that goes back so far, all without arrogance, but with humility and with love for the one man who is truly such a wonderful, wonderful being. And I also, I thought I knew about Christianity, but especially with Orthodoxy, as I came into it, I started understanding one very, very important thing that is just fascinating to me at this point. It is my favorite thing about Christianity right now, and it is the incarnation, the role that Christ plays in all of it, of the divine, of God, who is above all, who is much better and much greater than everything, much greater compared to us, in whose comparison we are nothing, descends and comes down and empties himself and takes on flesh, comes to our level, becomes the lowest of us all, and condemns himself in front of all our eyes, and reaches out and offers his hand and gives us a path to follow him and to be like him. There is something just so beautiful about it.
Yeah, and if you permit me, like I just need to comment because this is such a huge contrast between the pride you were speaking of earlier and the humility that you speak of now, and that we can even sense in your voice. And if you permit me, actually, and that's the beauty of getting to meet you in person. Like, even seeing you act in church, the humility you have, the reverence you have, you're bowing down, the sign of the cross.
I was actually telling Father the whole time, I kind of envy you. I kind of,
He did say that.
we've gone through this rodeo a few times with people who are new to the faith, and I'm always very jealous. Public confession, I was watching to prep for meeting you in person. Sorry, Father, to cut you off. I just want to say, when you were telling David Wood, I started to pray, and I loved it. I actually got mad at you, and I got mad at God at the same time. While I was like, I don't even know him. I'm mad at him already. Like, it's not fair. Like I struggle with prayer my whole life. How do you love prayer? And then that's what I was talking to Father about. Like, people who aren't born into it, I take it for granted. I don't speak for anyone else, but the beauty of it, sometimes it takes a moment like today, waiting for you to kind of go and do the tour of the church that I spent my whole life in, made me sit down and look at the beauty. You know what I mean? And so thank you for that. That's us. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's fine. But this is who he is, right? So that speaks volumes. And also something else other than the bowing down and the reverence that you give to the church and the icons and the altar and whatnot, and the humility with which you do it. I don't know, Paul, if you noticed, like the countless amount of times that he said my spiritual father or spiritual priest, and how he guides you, this and that. So not only, you're walking on that road of humility because God is humble. God is the source of humility. And you just spoke about the cross and him emptying himself and whatnot. But even to the point that you're willing to be guided by someone else. And that's what the practice is, generally speaking, in Orthodox Christianity, regardless of which type of denomination or which tradition. And that's what we encourage our youth and our kids to do all the time. But to see it in you, he's saying, I almost had to count, how many times you're saying my spiritual father. So props to this priest. What's his name? It doesn't matter. Actually, keep it secret. But it says that transformation between I know everything, people are wrong, to I need guidance, that humility is just, to me, amazing and incredible.
It is so it's so fascinating because I was in a state of rebellion for so long, and I was I had this complete rejection of authority in any way, and I just I thought the best thing I can do is to just be free and do whatever I want. The problem is I did whatever I want for the longest time, and there is nothing there.
There's no freedom.
There is absolutely nothing there. There is nothing there at all. do whatever you want, go to the farthest place in the world, to take advantage of everything. There is nothing there. There is nothing to find there. There is nothing that really brings you joy. You just want more and more and more and more and more. You just want to go to the ends, and there is no end at all to what you want to do, because you will never reach an end. And then it's so funny to come to the church and then to just, after all that, to have a guide and put your trust in him and to just follow and stop being obsessed with your freedoms and with the things that you want, which just have no end, and just, trust and to be led and to have some humility, to listen to a better voice. There's such beauty to it. I thank God for my priest, my spiritual father. He has been such a joy, such a wonderful person in all this. He has directly always assured me, we are together in this, we walk together in this, whatever you need, I'm here for you. And it's like he is my father now. My own father disowned me. He is my father now, and he's a very good one, and I look to him when I need it the most. And when the world attacks me and is against me and hates me, he tells me why that is, but also he gives comfort and tells me what needs to be done, and reminds me of Christ and of the fact that there is no need to dwell in all the things that make you upset here and now.
Tell me, how has Orthodox Christianity answered, or has it even answered, has just quenched the questions of the atheist person that was atheist for so long?
There was a very interesting conversation that I had when as said, I talked to David about this whole thing. I actually sat down and said, hey, I feel very good about the church, and I feel very good about Christianity and all that, but my skepticism and all that, how I am. I'm not really sure what to do. So he gave me a whole speech about being sure versus just taking a step or making a step. And that was very encouraging. I went to church, I think it was like the third time that I went to the liturgy, to the divine liturgy on Sunday, and I was so happy and so at peace during it. And at that church, I also met an Orthodox monk who is now a good friend of mine, who has been helping me, get into it and all. And that day, I was just I was wondering if I should just make a step and become a catechumen in the church, because I feel like I'm at the right place. I'm where I need to be after all that out there. But I had a question, and I asked this question to that monk. And I said, look, for years now I spent in hardcore skepticism. I have to be sure that something is true before I commit myself to it. What am I supposed to do? And he just sat down and he spoke to me. And it wasn't a very long monologue. It was a relatively short one, but it kind of turned my world upside down. And at the end of that monologue, I can barely recall what he said, but it was basically about the ego and about relying on yourself and relying on knowledge, and then having this ultimate desire to know what is true, but then in the end dying without having figured anything out at all. And then in contrast to that, having humility and accepting that you don't know everything, that you never will know everything, and that you can have faith in what seems to be, or where you feel the goodness and the grace, instead of torturing yourself with trying to figure things out. And I thought, that sounds much better than worshiping my own brain all the time. So.
Yeah.
But I also asked my priest, and this was very funny. But so my priest is a Greek priest, and he knows that I'm of Turkish origin, And Greeks and Turks don't have a very good relationship.
So Turkish coffee is a Greek coffee.
Yeah.
It goes beyond coffee. But
Don't make that mistake. I was in Greece once and I said, "Can I have a Turkish coffee?"
Ooh.
The whole restaurant went silent. I didn't even know what I did wrong. And then the lady behind, like the bar, the barista or whatever, she looked at me. She's like, "Great coffee, great coffee." And I was like, "Greek coffee. I have a Greek coffee. I have." Yeah, I was. Or if I ran out so fast.
But so I went to my priest and I asked the same question to him. I said, "Look, Father, I really like this and I really feel like I'm going into the right direction, but I also have this curse of being this hardcore skeptic and I don't know what to do." And he said to me, "Look, Ridwan, coming to church and attending church is basically like getting a whiff of a very good kebab." And, and really liking it and being interested in it. When you become a catechumen, you basically get in line to get that wonderful smelling kebab. While you're in line, you can still eventually make a decision if you want to get it or not. And I thought, that's very funny, but also very profound, So. And he said, "I am here for all your questions and all your skepticism. Bring it to me." And he left it at that, and I said, "So should I become a catechumen?" I said, "Yeah, okay."
That's very different from other religions. In Christianity, we don't deter asking questions. Actually, Father, many times you and Father Anthony, especially during those question answer sessions, you're like, we encourage you to doubt. We encourage you to ask the question. That's not heard of in many religions. That's probably the start of getting ostracized in many.
Well, in my previous religion, the response to asking questions was the true believers are those who hear and who say, "I hear and I obey." And they don't ask questions. That is literally what is taught officially. And the other thing is, if you have questions, seek refuge and don't spend any time in such idle thoughts. That's basically what, so what I was taught in Islam and what also the teachings are in the scripture and the texts. But then I encountered, after I left Islam, actually, that it was very much part of Christian history that that having doubt is part of the faith. So that's something that always fascinated me, and I find it today as well. That my spiritual father, for example, he encourages in catechism and all that, and generally in studies with the parish, that people come and ask him questions, and not just quietly, quite publicly with everyone involved, whatever questions they have, whatever doubts they have, whatever concerns them, whatever bothers them, to come and to speak about it together, to figure things out without any judgment. And that is very different from what you get in other systems. And it is very nice. And the other thing is also, so we talked about humility, but the other thing is also about submission or force versus just devotion and love. When I was raised in a different religion, I did things not because I really wanted to do them. I mean, of course you can want to do them, but that doesn't really matter. You do things because you are forced, you are told to do them, because otherwise you will be tortured and punished and all that. Or you're supposed to abstain from certain things, or otherwise you will be punished. You're supposed to do good things so you get like rewards and all that. In Christianity, it's not like that. In Christianity, nobody tells me, okay, you have to do this prayer and that prayer and that prayer at this time. Otherwise, no, you are given certain guidelines, certain things, and I go and I do them not because I'm forced to do them. I do them because I know that it's good, and I learn to do them, and I love to do them. And when I don't do them, I don't feel afraid that I will be punished. I just feel a discomfort because I know that it's good, and I would like to go back to doing it.
That's self-fear, right?
Yeah.
So you are not foreign to the online world. You have a little bit of content out there. How now you've approached your online life as an atheist for so long? Where do you see it going, or how does it evolve now as a Christian?
So I've always had an idea of trying to be a just and good person. But the thing is, much of that was built on whatever I perceived to be just and good, and that's not necessarily always great. So there were times where I became very combative and very hostile and said some really harsh things, and wished for people to get harmed collectively harmed when I perceived that they, for example, engage in injustices or in bad things and all that. I have been generally more provocative, generally more. It was less about meaning, less about something positive, and more about attacking certain things that I considered bad and that I considered that I had resentfulness for. I want to change that, and I acted for many years as if I always wanted to prove to everyone that I know the answers to everything. It's actually very funny because it has been a major cause of anxiety for me that whenever I am on screen, I want to give people the impression that I know exactly what I'm talking about, that I know the answer to everything, and all that. It's kind of funny to admit now because and that is also one of those signs that you basically just engage in worshiping yourself and your own mind, and you are arrogant. I want to be more. I want to be more like Christ and less like me. And I know that I'm not very patient in front of provocations. I know that I, of myself, in the past, just said mean and bad things because I thought it's fun to do. I have, in the meantime, apologized for wishing harm upon different people. I have had lots of resentfulness. I guess I can say that now. I've had lots of resentfulness, lots of anger against Muslims because of my Islamic past and because of my engagements with them. I have spent time since I came to the faith praying for them every day, and it was very strange to start doing that. But I have been praying for them, and I am praying for them, and I want to. It's very easy for me to go down a very provocative and enjoyable path of whatever is popular online. But I think I want to change more and be more of what I'm supposed to be like, and bring more love and more light to it. And if I fail at that, and if I fail at that again and again and again, because I'm just me, I want to remember that and fix things. I want to contribute to something better. And I hope that God helps me with that.
Have your interactions online gotten worse as a Christian than they were when you were an atheist?
No. I think I have generally learned to respond to provocations and all that in a better way. In the past, I was just very wild about things as an atheist. As a Christian, I learned to be more, have more patience and to understand others more, and to see the good in whatever they do. I was actually expecting more hostility from atheists, for example, when I turn away from atheism and go toward Christianity. And from some people it does come. Some people say, "How can you be stupid that you accept a sky daddy?" And so,
He's what?
Sky daddy.
Sky daddy.
And then
Never heard that before. That's a new one.
things like
Never heard that.
good one. And very few people say things like that. But to my surprise, a lot of people have just given very positive responses to my going toward Christianity, even among atheists. I must say, there's also a different trend. Lots of people are talking about this now, but there's something changing out there in the air. Like over the last years, there is a return toward Christianity. It is suddenly good or popular to be Christian again, and it wasn't very popular for a while. So I don't know. I think everything has been kind of good, and I just want to do my best in that.
I'm very, very happy for you. What a beautiful, beautiful journey, truly.
Thank God.
And it's not only Paul that is jealous.
Yeah.
Like,
Godly jealousy, like happy jealousy.
Yeah, happy
for your-
jealous, yeah.
Pray for your protection and for your continual growth, of course. But
Thank God.
may we all learn from your path, honestly.
I'm
It
now.
was a source of joy.
I have a lot of. I make a lot of mistakes. I have a lot of mistakes, and this is the thing. In the past, when with my other religion, I basically had the understanding that mistakes are not really acceptable, and being not good enough is not really acceptable. You have to be forced to be good and all that. This was also something that kind of pushed me away from religiosity, and as I came to Christianity, I began to understand that that in a true faith, in the true faith, you are not expected to be a perfect human being who does everything as Christ did, for example. It is understandable that you are a human. You are in a flawed world, in a fallen world. It is understandable that you make mistakes, that you are not perfect, that you do regrettable things day and night. But that doesn't mean that you have to give up on things. On the contrary, it is why you need the faith and the church, which is the hospital that you as a sick human need in order to be better. And that's what I'm striving to be. That there are lots of people to look up to and to be like, such as the saints that you have in your church and everywhere else. Definitely not me, but but
You're on your way there.
But the good thing is, especially in Orthodoxy, something that I really appreciate is the idea of becoming like God, becoming like Him, being like Him, striving every day to be like Him, despite acknowledging that you are nothing like Him, that you are flawed, and so on. And this is what gives me hope, and I don't know, thank God.
Thank God, not science. Thank God.
Ridvan, I don't know how to thank you enough. What a blessing. The whole day has been such a blessing. Sorry we
I agree.
ran you through this a few thousand times and asked you a million questions over and over, but it was a blessing for us. We learned a lot.
Thank you.
And it was a great blessing to spend it. Any day I spend with you, Father, is a great blessing.
Same here, Paul. Thank you, Ridvan.
I'm so happy to be here and to have met you. It has been such a wonderful day for me, and really thank you for all the experiences and everything. I thank God and thank you guys.
It's never goodbye. It's always see you later, right?
Yes.
Yes, and may God protect you and continue your path, and hopefully bring you back one day to tell us more about the journey and the struggles, and put on different hats, and
I hope so. I hope so. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I still can't get the image of a once Muslim, now atheist, almost Jewish man with a Christian man walking into the Holy Land, getting matching tattoos. That's the highlight of my
Matching Coptic
matching Coptic
tattoos.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today at COA Podcast. We'll see you again soon.